For these problems, you're going to write the numbers in order from least to greatest. These are going to be a little bit different than what we're used to because some of the numbers have decimal values. Also, be careful when you have these types of problems that you pay attention, whether you need to go from least to greatest or greatest to least. So let's look at number 1. We have 4 numbers. If you look closely, you'll see 3 of them have decimal values and 1 of them doesn't. And we're going to put them in order from least to greatest. Before you put things in order, you need to make sure that you really understand the place value for each number. And one easy way to do that is to make sure that you keep all of the decimals lined up. If you keep the decimals lined up, all the other places will be lined up as well. So let me show you what I mean. So we're going to write 42 and 4/10. Okay, and now we're going to write 28 and 7/10, but we're going to make sure that the decimal is lined up still. So 28 and 7/10. Okay, now we're going to move on to 3 and 10/100, but we need to make sure again that the decimal is lined up. So the 3 is going to go here, and the 10 is going to go here. And the last number is 327. This number doesn't have a decimal value, but it does have a decimal point. It's just invisible when it's not needed. So the decimal point is going to go after the 7, so that we get the 7 in the ones place, the 2 in the tens place, and the 3 in the hundreds place. So now as I look at these numbers, they are lined up, but the end looks a little funny because it's not even. So what you can do is just add zeros to all the unused place values so that you have the number easier to look at and see. Okay, so once we have them lined up, it's easy to see which ones are the greatest and which ones are the least. This is the only one that goes to the hundreds place, so it's going to be the greatest. And this is the only one that has a number in only the ones place, so it's going to be the least. So the least greatest number is going to be 3 and 10/100. Okay, now we have 2 that go to the tens place, but we can see that 28 is less than 42. So our next number would be 28 and 7/10. Or you could say 70/100. I'm going to leave it 7/10 because that's what the original number was. So next would be 42 and 4/10. Again, you could say 40/100, but the original number was 4/10, so I'm going to leave it that way. And then the last one that we're left with is 327. So now that number is in order from least to greatest. So let's look at number 2. Again, we have 2 numbers without decimal values and 2 numbers with decimal values. So you have to be sure that you line them up. On these 2, even though you don't see the decimal, you know that it's the invisible decimal that goes at the end of the ones place. So here we have 581, and we're going to write the next number, keeping that decimal in the same line. And now we have 6 and 65/100. So to keep the decimal here, my 6 has to go here, and then 65/100 goes after it. And the last one is 4 and 85/100. So to keep my decimal point here, I need the 4 there and the 85/100. Now I'm going to go back and fill in any gaps with zeros just to make it look nice and even. All right, so now that I have this, it's much easier to see which one's the smallest and which one's the biggest. So it's definitely between these 2 for the smallest, but we can see that 4 and 85/100 is the absolute smallest, which makes 6 and 65/100 next. Okay, and now we're out of these 2, and we can see that 500 is less than 600. So 581 would go next, and 653 would be the greatest value. All right, you try some on your own, and if you need a little bit more help, you can come rewatch the video. Good luck!